My name is Catrina Heffernan, and I am delighted to be here today to share my knowledge and experience of concept analysis with you. I am passionate about defining concepts and things. As an educator, I have an in-depth knowledge and an understanding of the importance of theory in guiding practice. I have published a chapter on the concept of nurse anxiety and a paper on the concept of caregiver burden. I also teach concept analysis to students undertaking master degrees. Today, my presentation revolves around my development of a concept analysis on humanism as part of a European Union project called Humanising Healthcare Education through the Use of Storytelling. Recently, there has been an increasing interest in concept analysis as a means of establishing clarity about phenomena of interest within healthcare. This is due in part to the fact that healthcare as a discipline needs its own body of knowledge, and within that body of knowledge, its own key defined concepts. While concept labels may be the same across disciplines, it is important to distinguish any specific disciplinary perspective on the concept. So I want to explore the concept of humanism to provide greater clarity for the project Humanising Healthcare Education through the Use of Storytelling. Why a concept analysis? I would like to share a story with you. Most universities require a student to complete a research dissertation. As a student, I undertook many degree programs. I undertook a master's program and doctoral programs, and I had dissertations to submit. I found some of this a challenge, not because they were difficult, but because I could not find clarity until it came to my doctoral studies. What changed for me? I undertook a concept analysis before I launched into my research dissertation. For the first time in my student years, I was provided with clearly defined concepts to study. I was clearly able to see where I was going with my research from the outset, and even knew at the beginning how I could measure my concept. I now know that my feelings regarding research dissertations are very common among students and novice researchers, as many researchers begin their studies without any clearly defined concepts. For me, I likened this to travelling on a motorway, and in particularly on a motorway from the south of England to the north without a sat-nav. Having undertaken a concept analysis is the same as having a sat-nav to take you from A to Z. I wanted to share this with you so that you would understand the relevance of undertaking a concept analysis. It clearly tells you what something is. So what is a concept? A concept is an idea, it is a plan or an invention. It represents the fundamental characteristics or attributes of a concept. It was not too long ago when the concept of a robot in the hospital was laughed at. A concept usually consists of one or two words that convey meaning. A concept is usually measurable, for example, in a hypothesis, an assumption, or a proposition. And that leads us on to what is a concept analysis. What is a concept analysis? A concept analysis is the first step in communicating meanings, understandings, and feelings. It is an exercise designed to familiarize oneself with a variable. It is a method or an approach or a framework that is used to explicate attributes or characteristics of a concept. Determine what is the aim of the analysis. And for me, I put this into context within the EU project. For example, I needed to examine humanism so that every project member could clearly understand what we meant by humanism. The third step is to examine all the uses of the concept. So this means starting back at the beginning and defining humanism from the dictionaries, the theorises, from different perspectives, examining the noun and the verb, and working through the literature to examine its uses and its explanations. The fourth step is determining the defining attributes. And this means literally trawling through the literature and examining it for similarities and differences. This is a lengthy process as it requires review and synthesis of all sources of literature. The object of this step is to identify the characteristics that appear repeatedly with the intention of enabling differentiation of a concept from a related or similar one. The defining attributes for humanism include authentic relationship, presence, commitment, mutuality, becoming part of a story. And from these attributes, a working definition for humanism was developed. Therefore, humanism can be defined as an authentic relationship embracing presence, mutuality, and commitment by becoming part of another person's story. This definition includes each of the attributes listed in the previous slide. The next step involves constructing a model case that needs to include all of the defined attributes of humanism. A model case comprises of the defining attributes of a concept and is a pure exemplar of the case. The following model case includes all of the defining attributes of humanism, and they are highlighted in bold. Antonio is a healthcare professional working in the emergency department of a local hospital. Each day, Antonio cares for acutely ill patients and their families. It is a busy and demanding department. An obese man named John, with a cardiac history, presents with chest pain. Antonio administers pain relief, ensuring John is pain-free, and organises specific tests for the safe transfer of John to the coronary care unit. John starts to shout and says, "I will die if I don't give up the cigarettes, but I can't do it, I can't." Antonio is surprised to hear John shouting. Antonio places a chair beside John's bed and listens attentively. John calms down and starts to tell Antonio about his twin brother who died of a myocardial infarction due to smoking and alcohol. John says he is scared and really misses his brother. Antonio places his hand on John's shoulder and says, "I understand your anxiety and upset." He says, "It may be the best to treat your chest pain episode first and then talk to specialists who are trained to support you with the grieving process and with trying to give up smoking. It is difficult to do this on your own. Everybody needs support. John agrees that he would like support from specialists, and Tony helps with the transfer of John to the coronary care unit and explains to John that he will refer him to these specialists for follow-up discussions. John appears much more relaxed in the coronary care unit as he waves goodbye to Antony. That evening, Antony refers John to a smoking cessation officer and to the hospital commitment. This is a pure example and a real-life example of humanism in healthcare. The sixth step in Walker and Avon's framework is the development of a contrary case. A contrary case is a clear example of not the concept. Michael is 45 years of age. He has worked as a waiter in a local cafe for 20 years. He is a smoker. A healthcare professional is caring for Michael in a 6-bedded unit. He has just been told by the medical consultant that he has a growth in his stomach. He did not ask the consultant any questions when told about the growth, nor did the consultant give any further information. The healthcare professional who was with the consultant when he broke the news to him now approaches Michael to take his blood pressure. Michael appears upset. He is wiping a tear from his eye. The healthcare professional proceeds to take his blood pressure and records the result, telling Michael that his blood pressure is fine, no worries. The healthcare professional walks off to record the next patient's blood pressure. This contrary case demonstrates an absence of humanism as it contains none of the attributes of humanism. The identification of antecedents and consequences is the 7th step in the Walker and Avon framework, and these are useful for highlighting the social context in which the concept could be used and reaffirming the associated attributes. Firstly are antecedents, and these are events or incidents that must occur prior to the occurrence of the concept. There are many antecedents identified in the literature, but the following antecedents are relevant to the concept of humanism. Humanism in healthcare must involve a healthcare professional and a patient or family member. Humanism is an essential part of human life. It is an important element in building and maintaining the healthcare professional-patient relationship. The next step are the consequences, and these are defined as the effect or the result or outcome of something occurring earlier. Therefore, it is the outcome of the concept. The literature was reviewed and personal growth emerged as the key concept, as the key consequence of humanism. The 8th and final step in this framework of concept analysis is the identification of empirical referents by which we can measure the concept. Empirical referents are classes of actual phenomena that by their existence or presence demonstrate the occurrence of the concept itself. From reviewing the literature, I found that the most common tool to measure humanism was the quantitative measure, often relying on self-reported survey instruments. The tools consist of the totalitarian, authoritarian dogmatism, the ROIC tests for attitudinal assessment, the physician humanism scale, the IECARES scale, which is made up of integrity, excellence, compassion, altruism, respect, empathy, and service. I found that humanism is a complex construct that defies simplistic quantitative measurement. There is a need to develop a new tool consisting of an eclectic number of existing tools in order to measure the core attributes of humanism. To conclude, I presented a preliminary exploration of the concept. Humanism is depicted through the 5 attributes that I identified from the literature. The antecedents and the consequences have been identified, which will enable the partners in this EU project to identify and understand humanism from the context of this project. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation.